Hey guys, this is Andrew Frezza with FitTown, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my top 5 rules for transforming your body for good through nutrition. And we've worked with thousands of people over the last 8 years, helping them implement nutrition habits, get their workouts in, and transform their bodies. And you start to see these principles, these patterns that show up in people who are successful versus people who either see short-term success and then revert back to old habits, or people who never see success because they're unable to get enough of these habits and actions stacked together in order to see this meaningful change. And the first habit that I see of successful people is that they tend to eat the same few meals over and over again. And often when we get a new person who's trying to eat healthy for the first time or the first time in a while, they tend to overcomplicate things. They're asking about elaborate recipes that they can do. They're asking about what kitchen equipment they should buy. They are looking for meal plans, and they're trying to copy a meal plan, meal for meal, ingredient for ingredient. And I find that approach is very time consuming. It's very overwhelming at first. And even once people are very successful, they tend to take a much more simpler approach rather than a more elaborate approach. And that looks like eating the same few meals over and over again, because once you find something that works, once you find a meal that's healthy for you, that tastes amazing, that leaves you feeling amazing for hours afterwards, you're gonna stick to that thing and keep it in your weekly or bi-weekly rotation. So it doesn't mean you have to eat that thing every day or every night, but add it to your rotation where you're eating it once every 7, 10, 14 days, because it's probably gonna be often enough that it's going to make it easy for you, but rare enough that you're going to look forward to having it each and every time. And I know for my wife and I, we have a pork egg roll in a bowl recipe that we make almost every single week, which is just ground pork with a little bit of pre-cut broccoli slaw that we saute together. We do grilled chicken thighs every single week. Recently, we started doing homemade poke bowls with salmon that we have almost on a weekly basis. So we find these staple recipes and we stick with them. And every once in a while, we'll make little changes. But once we find something that we like, that becomes pretty much a weekly staple for us. The second habit that I see with successful people is that they enjoy every single bite of food that they get to eat, and they rarely feel like they're depriving themselves. And I don't want this to be confused with not having discipline at all, because surely there's still discipline in avoiding the donuts here and there, not having alcohol all the time when you might be craving it, or not having sweets all the time when you might be craving it. There is still some discipline involved in avoiding the less healthy foods every once in a while. But what we're saying is that we're not going through our day eating meals that we hate, waiting and saving up for this once a day treat or once a week treat that is going to be the only thing that we enjoy. We found foods that we've loved, and we decided to make all of our meals using those foods. And I've tried different diets before. I've tried keto, I've tried paleo, I've done tracking my macros. And the first thing that I do with any of these diets is I don't focus on what I can get away with or what I have to avoid in those diets, but I focus on what are the foods that are the healthiest for me, that fit perfectly within the guidelines of this diet that I love. So when it comes to things like a paleo diet, I'm looking at ground beef and sweet potatoes and avocado and arugula and all these different foods that I love, and figuring out how can I design most of my favorite meals around these foods. So every time I step up to a meal to eat something, I get excited to eat, and I can look forward to having that thing, because ultimately that's what's going to make it sustainable in the long run. And healthy eating is never something that you have to push yourself to, but you actually feel naturally pulled back towards. So when you go off track and you have a bad week or two, you actually feel pulled back towards those healthier foods because they're foods that you love and look forward to. The third habit of successful people is that they focus on how a food makes them feel, not just on how great a food tastes in that moment. And again, this isn't contradictory to our last point, which is that all food needs to taste great. This is just simply pointing out that we have these really hyper palatable foods now in our diets, these packaged foods, these sweets, pizzas and all these different things that are just hyper palatable foods that if we focus on purely how something tastes, it's hard to beat that extreme burst of flavor that you might get from one of these packaged or highly manufactured foods. But when you focus on how you feel after you eat something, and again, not just how you feel in that exact moment that you're eating something or in the minute or two after, but how do you feel 10 minutes after, 30 minutes after, an hour after? How do you feel the next day? How is your performance in your workouts after eating these foods? And when you start to connect which foods are leaving you feeling great for the next 12, 24, 48 hours, you start to crave having more of those foods in your diet. So successful people start to get in tune with their bodies, and they realize which foods work for them and which ones don't. And they realize that a lot of these unhealthier foods are this brief, fleeting moment of pleasure, but then almost immediately you can feel a lot worse. You can have these drops of energy after eating these foods. The other thing that successful people start to learn about their bodies is that the healthier they eat, the better healthy food tastes. So it becomes this flywheel where it's feeding itself, and the more healthy foods that you're eating, the more in tune you are with how those foods affect you and your body. Your taste buds actually respond in an appropriate manner, and those foods start to even taste better than some of the more packaged or more artificially flavored foods out there. And again, if you can combine that with point number 2, which is you have all these foods that you love, and then in addition to that, you're focused on how these foods fuel you and make you feel for hours and days afterwards, then that's this perfect combination where everything's gonna taste great and you're gonna feel great as well. The fourth big habit of successful people is that they have safety nets in place to keep them from ever going too far off track. And this is an important distinction, that successful people still do go off track. Everyone goes off track from time to time. It's not that successful people are perfect in this regard. It's just that they're quick to recover. And I'm a firm believer that it's not about if you go off track or even how badly you go off track. It's about how quickly and efficiently you can get back to center and get back to what we would consider that recovered state. And I like to think about this like lanes on a bowling alley, where we have these bumpers that we can put into those bowling lanes, into the gutters, that keep us from ever going too far off track or keep us from going into the gutter with our eating and fitness habits. And with successful people, not only do they have these bumpers in place, but they've kind of narrowed out those bumpers so that ball can only go so far, and they can only get so far off track. And I know for my wife and I, we have a number of things that keep us on track. I actually regularly order from meal delivery services, where I might order my entire lunches for the week and have them delivered on a Monday. The one I'm using currently is called Eat the 80, and I get a month's worth of frozen meals, about 15 meals, that I'll just keep in our freezer. And if we've had a bad week or a busy weekend where I haven't been able to meal prep and we've been eating poorly, and I go into that week really kind of behind where I haven't meal prepped anything, I can grab 4, 5, 6 of those meals and have them ready for that week. Whereas another week where I've done the meal prep and I'm prepared, I might not have to use any of those meals, or I might only use 1 or 2. So it's great to have those meals because they'll last for months on end when I need them. Or if I need to eat a lot in a really short period of time, I have those accessible and available, and I can heat them up in the microwave right from frozen and not really lose any of that flavor or have to have any special preparation for those meals. Another big thing that we do is we stock our freezer. We'll regularly put a lot of frozen veggies, frozen fruits, frozen meats into our freezer. So even when we've done a poor job shopping, we still have really good healthy options to choose from. And we regularly use Instacart and delivery services. So if we're busy that day, we're both working a lot, we can still get healthy stuff, healthy, fresh stuff to the house via Instacart instead of having to find time to go shopping. So there's all these different things that we would do. Another one that I've seen with a lot of our clients is having healthy go-to restaurant options, where you just know that these are the restaurants I go to when I can't make my lunch. I know I can get a good salad here. I know I can get rotisserie chicken here. And you have these things built into place that make it so you can only go so far off track. And then the final thing I'll say about successful people is that they find a way to have their non-negotiable cheats and indulgence out there without letting that derail them. And they actually have it built in intentionally into their healthy eating regimen. And this is gonna be different for everybody. For some person, it's gonna be chips and crunchy stuff. For someone else, it's gonna be alcohol. For someone else, it's gonna be sweets. Figure out what are the things for you that really provide the most satisfaction for you for sort of the least amount of calories or impact. And depending on how that matches up, this could be something that you maybe have every single night, or this might be something you have to build in once a week or once a month, right? If it's a square or two of dark chocolate or a glass of red wine, a small glass of red wine, you could potentially have that thing every night and still be on track towards being in a healthier lifestyle. If it's a pizza or a pint of Ben & Jerry's, then maybe that thing has to be in there more like once a week or once every couple weeks or once a month, right? And just depending on what that vice is for you or what that non-negotiable element is for you, that's where you can kind of build it in to your healthy eating routine. But what I find with a lot of people that are unsuccessful is they spend a lot of time in the gray. They spend a lot of time in this area where they're not really eating these really healthy foods, but they're not necessarily eating the foods that they love either. They're eating a lot of these foods that kind of look healthy, you know, like a sandwich or a cereal or something like that, where it's not their favorite thing in the world, but it's not really that healthy for them either. So when they do go to indulge, they don't really enjoy that indulgence. They feel kind of guilty about it. And when they go back to eating healthy, the things that they're eating aren't really as healthy as they could be. So what I would encourage you to do is be more black and white about, you know what, these are the healthy foods that I love and that I enjoy, the staple meals that I'm going to build my routine around. And when I go off track, these are the foods that I know I'm going to love and I'm going to or feel like are worth it when I go off track. And they're going to excite me to get back to eating healthy again, because even though I love those foods, I know I don't feel incredible when I eat those foods the way I do when I have this amazing routine. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. Hopefully you find these 5 principles useful in terms of thinking about how you want to achieve long-term lasting nutrition success. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me at andrew@fittown.com. And if you like this video, please like it below, smash that like button, and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to do any workouts with us, if you're local to the Jupiter area, you can click the link below to sign up for a no sweat intro with us. Check out our gym, FitTown Jupiter. Or if you're across the world, check out our FitTown remote and follow along workouts where you can basically work out with us from anywhere around the world. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you on the next one.